Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you game 3 in a best of 3 between Robert and Walther, and this is Chickendew's European Tournament round 1 of the lower bracket. So today we're moving into the third and final game of this series. Previously we saw the 1st Panzerner defeat the 12th SS Panzer in what was a masterful display of tactical avoidance, I would call it. He just completely ignored the Boy to Firefly as much as he could, went round it anywhere he could find on the map, and it seemed to work out quite well. In this one we're going to be seeing Carpiquet again, this time with Robert on the 15th Infantry Scots, and then we have Walther on the 9th Panzer. So there's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. It looks like Walther's going to have to rely almost solely on the Marders, especially at the beginning of the game, to make any ground, and then it will be reliant on the Tigers in the late game. However, due to that being the 9th Panzer, honestly 15 front armour tanks like Churchill 7s can probably do pretty well in this matchup, as there isn't too much that Walther has to destroy them. So I reckon, honestly, in my opinion, the 15th Infantry has an advantage going into this, but we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens throughout the game. So let's speed up the deployment, and we'll watch the units that are coming down and basically comment upon them. So there is going to be a Marder 3 on the bottom side here from Walther, to be expected. I think I would expect to see one in the centre as well, just to try and make some ground early on. They're also pretty good at taking out enemy AT guns, so that's something that he could definitely take advantage of. The 6-pounders only have 1,000 meter range, so 1,200 meter range from the Marder. Also, this half-track's a nice choice. The 251-2 here, that is a very nice choice as well, just to sort of accompany his forces at the start of the game and basically destroy those AT guns that they're going to get in his way. For the bottom side, it's going to be 2 units of Panzergrenadiers and a Speertrupp. There is 1 unit of infantry going towards the centre, and then we have a few units going to the top as well, which is going to be an AT gun. Panzergrenadiers, we have the 251 there with a Speertrupp. But on the side of Robert, way more infantry. Now look at this spacing from Robert. That's going to be very, very nice for him. He's going to gain a lot of ground on this airfield early on, especially considering Walther is not going to be pushing across it at the start of the game. So once these rifles start to fan out and take the ground, it's going to definitely fall in favour of Robert. He does have himself a Churchill 5 on this top side. Now Churchill 5s can actually be used quite well to take on Marder 3s if you use the fire position trick. The only trouble with doing so is that it's a lot harder to achieve against Marder 3s, since Marder 3s are mobile. Like, it's all very well doing a fire position trick against like a Pack 40, say, which shares the same range, because a Pack 40 takes a lot longer to move. But a Marder 3 could easily just drive up into your face, especially with like a Churchill 5, and do the job that way. So it looks like Robert's going to be relying on these Bring Group. It's an interesting choice, definitely allows him to just flood infantry across the open with those because they're very cheap squads. However, I'm not entirely convinced that they're going to do so well against the Panzergrenadiers going forwards in this game, and that could mean that Robert runs out of infantry availability. On the bottom side, the Panzergrenadiers here are still driving forward in their truck, and it seems like the mortar fire is coming down on top of these Bren Group along with the Marder 3 fire. But ground has been made for Robert. He's found himself the +1 early on. He's just got to, I think, get some recon on the field and find out where these AT guns are so he can start being more aggressive with these Churchill 5s. That's really how he's going to make the ground early on, at least. Down on this bottom side, internal fragments for the 251 from the 6-pounder. Going to very likely be a kill there. Yes, indeed. Panzergrenadiers are going to be okay to continue advancing towards these rifles and Bring Group. So it looks like it's come back to 50-50 for now. But if we go to the perspective of Robert, yeah, he completely neglected his recon early on. He's relying on these Bren Group, I'm assuming, to find out what he's going to be up against. And the optics on these guys aren't going to be very good. So that's going to affect his play moving forwards for sure. As for Walther, Walther can see quite a bit more. He does have a couple units of speed through up on the field. And the good thing about Recon and Carpiquet in general is that because it's such an open map, there's not often much that can hide from you. And that's why I'm kind of really surprised that Herr Robert doesn't have much Recon himself. Anyway, mortar fire continues to come down. Rifles here are holding fire. Bit concerned about this. Walther's going to be running in there with the rifles and will probably be able to take a couple of these bunkers before he has to engage the rifles themselves here. And that's going to be really bad because without those rifles engaging and Walther getting into these bunkers, that basically allows him to get his machine guns on target and start pinning these rifles without taking too much damage himself. Mortar fire is going to come straight down onto these rifles and probably pin them. There is no command on the bottom side, so that could easily be a surrender. And then ground's going to be falling in favour of Walther for sure. So very close there till they're pinned, and when they're pinned for long enough, they're just going to get surrendered, and that's job done. Walther takes the bunkers. So maintaining the 50-50. I really like this player Bren group in the centre. It's just a shame that they're not accompanied by Recon, which can then find information about what is coming their way. So on this top side there is now Marder 3. Definitely important to continue the presence of the Marder 3s on the field. They are basically the only thing that Walther has to deal with the Churchill 5s. And it's very unlikely that we're going to see many looks, but there is a looks coming in on the top side, with another unit of infantry coming in up here as well. On the bottom side, infantry being slowly but surely surrendered. Ooh, a bailout there, but the track wheel damage onto the Churchill 5 is going to keep it falling back. So that is a shame, but that Churchill 5 out of commission for sure. And, well, that's a kill. Very, very nice kill there from the Marder 3. Very important kill as well. On this bottom side, looks like these Panzergrenadiers got a bit over-aggressive. Forced back by the Churchill 5 for now. I'd like to see Walther just deploy these Panzergrenadiers into these bunkers and just leave them there for now, since he has found himself a +1 on the board and is starting to push back some of these Bren group squads as he finds them. So 251 Panzergrenadiers. They're trying to engage rifles at the moment. These Bren group currently staying on return fire just to maintain territory. Bit concerned about what Herr Robert wants to do with this 6-pounder that's here in the Lloyd carrier. I would like to kind of see that move around to the top side for now, but maybe he's just a bit wary. Doesn't want to move it up to the top side, doesn't want to move it down to the bottom side, because, I mean, there's a Marder 3 in both places. Maybe waiting for one to get a little bit too far forwards and then it can deploy within 1,000 meter range and try and go for the kill. That would be one way to do things. Bren group here forced to fall back, +1 still in favour of Walther. All the HE shells of this Marder 3 are being used up though, so that's not going to be around for very long. Spitfire Mark 9 is actually coming in for a bombing strike onto this Marder 3. Doesn't get the kill, definitely forces it to fall back. Those two 10 HE power bombs can kill the Marder 3 quite nicely. So that was a worthwhile try there for sure. More infantry on the way for Walther, more infantry on the way for Herr Robert. Lux has now joined the push on the top side, and this is definitely the best place to use this Lux. It can take advantage of the closer range engagements to definitely do a lot of damage with its 20mm autocannon to the infantry that is occupying these buildings, and then that will allow the Panzergrenadiers to continue their push. You can see now Panzergrenadiers coming across the airfield as well now, so they're eventually going to bump into these Bren group. And honestly, like, I'm not a massive fan of Bren group. I see why people use them, because they are expendable infantry that allow you to take a lot of ground. But as you can see here, although they are capturing the airfield, as soon as they get found, they die. They don't have much firepower at all. So the Panzergrenadiers here, for example, going to be opening up with both their Kar 98 and the MG42, and now these Bren group go down very, very quickly indeed. They just can't put out the same suppression. They're going to get hit very hard. Fortunately, in this case, 2 Bren group on 1 Panzergren but still. Panzer Grenadiers have taken up positions in these bunkers, and I like to see that they're on return fire so they don't reveal themselves to these rifles. Half-track still firing away. Bren Group have been pinned down there. You can see these Bren Group here, they've actually left a little bubble. Hopefully that will notify Walther that there is a squad nearby there. Pack 38 going to be taking some shots at the command carrier, especially as these Panzer Grenadiers roll forward. They don't really have anything to capture though. They're going to get caught out in the open for sure, because there's no building here that they can take control of. These rifles, for whatever reason, aren't firing. But I guess if they were, the Panzer II would just open up anyway. Okay, now we have a Spitfire Mark 9 coming in. That's going to be strafing infantry as it tries to run across the field here. One thing I will say is that Walther needs to be careful about his infantry availability. It's not so bad with the 15th Infantry Scots to spam infantry and lose it, but with the Panzer Grenadiers, more specifically, you don't get like a crazy amount of availability with the 9th Panzer. So that's something that could definitely catch Walther out later down the line if he loses too many Panzer Grenadiers early on. Focke-Wulf 190 doesn't get shot down, but loses the engagement versus the two Spitfires here. Bomber's going to come down and hit the half-track, does not get the kill, but this Spitfire Mark 9 manages to keep the Panzer Grens in the middle of the field pinned. Panzer II Lux is going to take out the carrier on the top side, and now that Lux is pretty much free to take on more of these rifles. Panzer Grens that did move on towards those rifles though have since been killed. So just more availability of infantry on the way. Not going to be too much more available for Walther at this point. He's going to have to wait until Phase B. Oh, actually, we've just moved into Phase B, so we might see more Panzer Grenadiers on the way. But at the moment, Churchill 5 going to be engaging Panzer 1 and the Marder 3 on the bottom side. Now, Churchill 5 could eventually get the kill onto the Panzer 1 for sure. Panzer Grens still engaging across this airfield, slowly but surely taking ground. Rifles just, again, don't match up very well. They have a Bren gun, and at the same range, the Panzer Grens have two MG42s. You can just see the HE difference there, like 2 compared to 9. Of course it's going to fall in favour of Panzer Grens, especially in like an open range engagement like this. One interesting play might be to move forwards the Bofors and use that to pin down all of the infantry in the open, so that he can then maybe bring in a faster moving unit like this command carrier and just kind of surrender them all. But the Marder 3 there actually doing a really good job of killing off one of the infantry squads before it unloaded, so easy kill. But these rifles have now moved up, are going to surrender one unit of Panzer Grens, and are probably going to kill off the other with the help of the Bofors and the Churchill 5. And that's now the bunkers back in control of Herr Robert, but a 45% territory lead, or 55% territory lead for Walther, and he's still counting up his points. He's got 420 points on the go, and so far so good. These Panzer Grens managed to find and kill off the Bren group that were in their way, probably with the help of the Panzer II Lux there. But just in general, I mean, it looks like Walther's in a pretty good position, but he has just lost his infantry on the bottom side, and when he starts losing infantry elsewhere, again, infantry availability is going to become a pretty big problem, and then things are going to be starting to push back in favour of Herr Robert. So we have another Churchill 5 heading towards mid. We got a Wolverine over here as well. That's going to be engaging tanks at 1200 meter range. We've got Spitfire Mark 9 go for the bombing strike again onto the Marder 3, but the Focke-Wulf 190 AA actually gets the kill there. So a very nice kill for Walther coming out. But it's interesting to see the tactics that are used on Carpiquet Duellists. It's probably one of my least favourite maps just because it is so open, but it seems like quite a competitive map for certain divisions, and maybe that's why it's chosen still. in competitive play. Churchill 5 here, able to do a lot of damage to the Panzer Grenadiers in the open for sure. There's also now a SDKFZ71 on the bottom side. That's a flak Vulling on the back of a half-track that will hopefully defend the Marder 3 and other fire support vehicles down here from future strikes. Churchill 7 is engaging the 258. I'm surprised that 258 is actually in range there. I wouldn't expect that Churchill 5 to be engaging in range. But either way, the 258 is going to be falling back. Spitfire Mark 9's going for the strafing run onto the Marder. And, well, it looks like the AA is going to be focusing one of the Mark 9's there. Manages to force it back, but on the top side, there isn't an AA, so Hopper Blitz munition there can be targeted. If that could be killed by the Spitfire Mark 9, that's like 50 points just blown up there straight away by Herr Robert. So nice strafing run. No AA on the top side to stop him. Might find the kill. Not quite, not this time. I believe there was another unit of infantry here brought up, but it was killed before they unloaded, and that's very unfortunate for Walther because, like I mentioned before, infantry availability is going to play a big part in this battle, I believe. Wolverine's going to be able to weapon jam the Panzer II Lux. Pioneers running towards the rifles here. These Panzer Grenadiers have managed to get past them, but with that Panzer II Lux being pinned down and forced back, it's going to cause some issues for Walther. He's not going to have the Panzer II now to help him take territory, and that's going to kind of suck quite badly. Churchill 5 is continuing to press on over the field, now with rifles supporting him instead of Bren Group. Looks like Robert wanted to rely on Bren Group to delay the game early on and then come back with more infantry availability in the later phases, which then Walther couldn't necessarily deal with. I guess one saving grace for Walther is that even if there is a lack of infantry availability on his side, he will still have the fire support units and tanks to take on infantry in the open. The only issue comes when he allows the infantry to get into these hangars on his side of the map. Same goes for the bottom. But so far so good for Walther. Still a +1, 51% territory lead. Pioneers now engaging the rifle leader, Pack 38 engaging the Wolverine. That Wolverine does actually have to be pretty careful. ME109 G2BR21 going to be able to take out the AT gun in the center of the map, and on the bottom side, well, there is now a 17 pounder, and that is going to be engaging the Marder 3. Marder 3 has managed to get out of line of sight, but that is a scary thing to deal with on that bottom side of the map already. Churchill 5 continuing to fire away. Look at these rifles again. I'm just really surprised these rifles have not been spotted or walked over or whatever, because they are camping right next to those Pioneers. If you actually zoom in, it's quite hilarious because you can see the dude here just standing there next to these guys, these Pioneers, and just not caring at all. Either way, rifles have now been pinned down across the open. It seems as if this Panzer 1C is actually doing quite a lot of damage. It does have 14 HE to put down at 800 meter range. I believe that's 800. Actually, it might be 600. Yeah, 600. 600 meter range. But still, that's a lot of HE, able to rip to shreds these rifles slowly but surely. Marder 3 has been reloaded with HE ammunition as well, which is good. Allows that to continue firing at enemy infantry. Flak 36 also getting involved. Infantry on the top side going to be forced to fall back. Pioneers are also running. But just across the board, well, Panzer Grenadiers did actually go down there, I believe, to Churchill 5s in these rifles. But the rifles, once all of these rifles die, a lot of territory goes back in favour of Walther. So he's not doing too bad at all right now, that's for sure. This mortar is going to take some shots at the enemy bunkers, just to keep infantry pinned down, and then he can move on them with the Panzer Grenadiers. But a large infantry purchase on the top side now for Walther. I'm assuming he's going to try and push into these compounds, but it's very hard for him to do that. I think what he needs to do is maybe bring his Marders together and make a push over the open. That would be a lot better. As long as he can avoid the 17 pounders, which he seems to have been doing so far, then he should be okay. Like the 17 pounder on the bottom side that we just saw is now dead. Probably got mortared to death. Now we have an airstrike coming in. ME109 GT BR21 going for the 25 pounder. Might be able to get a one pass onto that, honestly. I have seen that happen before. Oh, not quite. 1 health. It depends if Herobert chooses to fall this back and whether or not the flames actually kill that, because I'm not sure if he's quite in range to take the flame damage, but it's a little bit risky there. 25 pounder. So Focke-Wulf here has come in onto the back of a Spitfire, and the Spitfire's gone down. Looks like Herobert is slowly but surely losing his air superiority that he had at the start of the game. So he originally purchased the bomber, he purchased the Spitfire Mark 9s, like 2 of them, and now he's lost both the bomber and one of the Mark 9s. So I think he has maybe 1 Mark 9 left. But against the Focke-Wulf will probably win. We did see the 25 pounder burn to death there. Pioneers still trying to engage multiple rifle squads. These rifle squads just being ran towards the enemy and aren't really having a very fun time. Pack 38 is going to open up onto the Wolverine. Wolverine might have a little bit of a hard time pinning down the Pack 38, but fortunately does get its HE shell on target before it runs out. That could have very easily been a miss, and then the Pack 38 probably wouldn't have been pinned so easy. The 50 cal still would have been on target there, but I guess it wouldn't have mattered. Focke-Wulf 190 going to be engaged in his 17 pound. That's been strafed to death by the Focke-Wulf 190. Pioneers do get surrendered up here. This half track has used up all of its ammunition. It's going to be falling back to the Opel Blitz munition up here. Oh, Panzer 1 goes down in the mid. And we also see that the Marder 3 has been killed on this top side. There is ground being made on the bottom. We can see the rifles here just about holding up with the return fire. But as soon as they reveal themselves, should be killed. And then what Walther can do is bring in a new infantry squad to capture that. But definitely has to be careful with the infantry availability. You can see that it's not so lacking on the top side, but it's definitely lacking on the bottom and mid. He moved like 3 units of Panzergrenadiers across the field, and now they are all dead. Same goes for Herobert though. A lot of his units that he's been pushing across the field are dead as well. This 25 pounder on the bottom side though. Going to be trying to counter battery Walther's mortar. Not sure that's going to be particularly effective. Churchill 5 here has direct line of sight onto the Flak 36. That's not good. It's going to be a very dead Flak 36. And, well, although these charge tactics from Herobert look a bit counterproductive, they are working slowly but surely. He's making ground on the top side at least. Wolverines engaged with the Panzergrenadiers, keeping them pinned. And he's brought it back to a 50-50. So Walther is no longer making any points. 18 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock. Can Herobert bring it back? Now both these players are at risk of being knocked out of the tournament. Because this is the lower bracket, both Herobert and Walther have all to play for. And whoever loses will be knocked out. Since this was a best of 3 and it's come down to the 3rd game, it's practically a best of 1. So they both got to show what they're made of and win this game for themselves. ME109 G2 BR21 does manage to take out the 17 pounder once for all. 25 pounder here has taken quite a lot of damage but not quite dead yet. Hummel is going to be opening up onto that artillery. That is a 3-star Hummel with an SDKF Z263 nearby. And that can be extremely accurate. Sometimes too accurate though. Because, like for example in this situation, you need to get a direct hit in order to like kill basically, or maybe not a 25 pounder. But what I'm getting at is that Herr Robert can obviously move his 25 pounder, and every time you do, the Hummel's not going to hit it by accident because it's so accurate. Anyway, on this top side, mortars firing away once again. 2 units of Panzergrenz and the half-track going to be opening up onto those units. But there is a 4.2-inch mortar on the field now. It's going to be up to Walther to try and take care of that. These rifles, though, from Herr Robert are making a lot of ground. Like, there is, again, not much infantry availability here. And this Churchill 5 has been doing very, very well throughout this game. It's used up almost 40 of its ammunition, 40 shells. It's pretty ridiculous. Panzergrenz here, though, might finish off these rifles, which will help out, unless the Churchill gets involved. Hummel, going to be firing away once again. Does have a direct shot onto the 25 pounder. Can it hit the mark? No, it can't. Like I said, a direct hit is preferable. I thought, honestly, it would be more accurate than that with 3-star veterancy, but apparently not. Actually missing, and therefore not getting the kill yet. Now there's a Wolverine and a 17 pounder coming down to this bottom side. I really like the use of these Wolverines, actually, against the 9th Panzer. Because it's something that's armoured that he can use at 1200 meter range, and in phase B that's really, really strong. So like having the one on the top side has really helped him out push there. In phase C, however, we might see the Tigers finally come in. Yes, we do. There's a Tiger E on the way up here, and that will be a lot harder for a Wolverine to deal with. But for now, Wolverine's not too bad. The issue that the Wolverine has is that it's low on HE, and often can use up a lot of its machine gun ammo very quickly. So you can see it's already halved its ammunition count of its 50 cal. ME109 GTBR-21 going to be hitting the Wolverine. I would have liked that, I think, to hit the 4.2-inch mortar instead, especially with the advancement of the Tiger E towards the front line. 52% territory lead now, though, for Herr Robert, and he's slowly counting his points back. So he's managed to get into these hangars, and like I said before, if Herr Robert can get into the hangars, it's going to make it very hard for Walther to push him out, especially with a lack of infantry availability, which is definitely starting to show even more now. Another unit of Panzergrenz has died alongside that half-track on the top side, and there's just a severe lack of units here to hold back enemy infantry. Like, he has obviously half-tracks, and he can bring in 258s. He's got the Stugs and so on, but you can see that Herr Robert just doesn't care. He's quite literally suicide charging all of his men forwards. Focke-Wulf 190 does come in for the strafing run onto the 6 pounder just to try and get rid of that. Got to be a little bit careful with the engagements of like the Stug 3 and the Tiger. But that Tiger, if it gets onto this airfield, could definitely pop both the Churchill 5s, and that would take off a lot of pressure. So that's what Walther's got to look to do. Oh, he did manage to take out the Wolverine there, though. Really, really nice kill indeed. Hummel does manage to take out the Bofors in the centre of the airfield. That will allow him to continue his rather successful air engagements. Walther's been doing really well, actually, with the Focke-Wulf 190 A8s. Like in the strafing run there, trying to get rid of the 17 pounder, allow the Tiger E to be safe when it moves up. These Panzergrenz are going to be opening up onto the rifles there. Stug 3 is currently forced to fall back, but once it recovers, should be able to help out with that engagement. We do see the Tiger E getting involved anyway. Another Tiger E is being purchased. So I thought this is what would happen. Both of the Tiger E's pretty much have to be purchased as soon as phase C comes around, if you don't want to get overwhelmed by like Herr Robert and his infantry availability, because these Tiger E's do have 3 machine guns as well as 5 HE on their main gun, so they are pretty decent for holding back both infantry and enemy tanks. So this one, again, I want one to come to the airfield, something with 1200 meter range that can kill like the Churchill 5s here. It looks like Pioneers and Panzergrenz did manage to take out the unit of rifles that got into the hangars on the other side of the airfield, but we'll have to see how long that actually lasts, since there is more infantry on the way for Herr Robert. And it looks like he's going for a centre push. On this bottom side, things are getting pretty ugly. This Wolverine has been getting into a really awkward position. Just managed to kill off this half-track here. We saw him also take out the Flakvilling on the half-track there. And we've also seen the supply go down. So it looks like maybe Walther was concentrating on the top side of the map. Lost a lot of units down here because of it, including another half-track and maybe even the Stug. Because the Stug can't engage at 1,200 meter range. And therefore the Stug will likely die. That's 13 AP versus 8 armor. So that's like an extra, like 5 more AP than armor. And that's going to be a kill. There we go. Very nice indeed. We also see on this top side, 17 pounder taking some shots at the Tiger E. He hasn't kept that pinned down, and he doesn't have his mortar firing away. So that Tiger E is going to continue to remain under risk. And we do now see both the Stug and the 258 go down here. Yeah, so the Wolverine managed to take out the Stug, the Churchill cleaned up the 258, and that's opened up the bottom side massively. And Herobert, his reinforcing infantry, is now instead going for the hangars on the bottom side rather than the center of the map, which is a really good like identification from him, making sure that he knows what he's up against, and he's kept a note of how much stuff he's killed, and that's again very important. Although Spear Troop did manage to unload all of the units of rifles before they could get to these hangars, which is pretty important, especially with the rest of his units being on return fire. That's going to force Herobert now to march those across open fields. But we'll have to see if Walther can stop those, or whether or not they're just going to continue moving forwards. Wolverine is falling back, but this 17 pounder getting in position to attack the Tiger E, and as soon as these Tigers go down, the 9th Panzer is going to be in a really, really awkward position. Mortar fire has started to come down onto the 17 pounder. We see a Focke-Wulf 190 G1 coming in with a bombing strike onto that 17 pounder, and that is going to go down, so that's a really good kill there from Walther. Now it's just a matter of stopping these rifles in their tracks. On the top side, Churchill 5 still firing away. I really like Herobert's micro of these Churchills. Well, I don't think he's had to micro them much, honestly. But the fact that they've used so much ammunition is a testament to how useful they have been throughout this game. But maybe, eventually, we'll see a breakthrough up here, because the 17 pound is dead on the top side, and Herobert's focusing on the bottom side. So that means that Walther's Befehlpanzer 4, Stug 3, and also this Tiger can push pretty hard on this top side. The Hummel here is going to be engaging rifles on the airfield. We see more rifles arriving, going to be going for their suicide push. We do see the Churchill 5 engaging the Tiger E. I'll probably be better off with both the Wolverines doing that, but we see the Focke-Wulf 190 G1 coming in here, 25 HE power bomb. It's going to be going for the 6 pounder. ME109 G2 BR21 going to be rocketing the Wolverine. Looks like the Focke-Wulf 190 G1 going to be getting out of there before the Spitfire Mark 9 can get involved. I really like the use of Air Force from Walther. It's been very, very effective. Especially considering there isn't actually too much on like availability for the 9th Panzer. I'm pretty sure they only get like 3 air slots. So Walther's been utilising them very well. And Tiger there though does manage to one-pop the Churchill 5. And with this Wolverine falling back, that does make things a lot easier for him. Crew knockout onto the Tiger does allow time for this Challenger to get into range. Herobert needs to sort of take advantage of that while he can, but it doesn't look like he's going to. Going to now be going for the attack move with the Challenger afterwards, and this Tiger E will likely find the kill there. If it can land on target at least, that's going to be 15 AP versus 7 armor. Quite a high chance of penetration for sure. Okay, rifles here running towards those Panzergrenz. Fortunately, Panzergrenz are going to be in position to hold back the spam of rifles Focke-Wulf 190 and Spitfire Mark 9 going in for an engagement. Second Focke-Wulf 190 going to be purchased and brought in to help out the Focke-Wulf 190. See if Herr Robert can micro this properly, or maybe use his AA to give himself an advantage. But I feel like here, are we going to see the kill? I'm not sure. He did manage to get the fallback onto the Spitfire Mark 9, but there is another Spitfire on the way. Oh, that Spitfire Mark 9 definitely going to be shooting down that Focke-Wulf. This Focke-Wulf is in a pretty bad position. Going to be told to run away. Oh, no, he's actually going for the engagement. I think he could have got out of there. I don't know why he didn't go for that. Focke-Wulf 190 is just generally faster than the Spitfire Mark 9, so he could have taken advantage of that speed and found himself an evac there. But now the Spitfire might get on the back. Never mind, still fast enough. Good. Okay, right, let's have a look at what's going on across the map. It seems like this infantry spam on the bottom here has kind of fallen apart slowly but surely. There's only 3 squads of rifles left now. There was like 7 on the field, but they've been cut down, that's for sure. And on this top side, well, the push is actually coming through. Stug 3, Befehlpanzer 4, Tiger E, all making their move. I think Herr Robert really needs to bring in some more 17-pounders right now if he wants to take care of the Tiger E's and this armour. So a minor victory for Walther in 5 minutes and 35 seconds. I think just the fact that Walther's managed to hold on to the air is very, very important in this game. ME109 G2 BR21 does manage to shoot down a 2-star Spitfire, but it's going to get shot down in response. That does save the Focke-Wulf 190 G1 though, which is very, very good in that those 25 HE power bombs are very useful for destroying 17-pounders that I said that Herr Robert is going to need to use in order to win. The Tiger here looks like it wants to have an engagement with a challenger on its own terms, so it's going to be reversing for now. Yeah, as long as Walther can keep the Tigers alive, he should be in a good position, but it looks like he's waiting for the bombing strike from the Focke-Wulf 190 G1 to come in, and then we'll be going for the engagement. That's pretty smart there. Just make sure there's no chance of his Tiger dying. Finds himself the kill. Lovely stuff. Keeping the rather large lead in his favour. He's now found himself a +1 as well, with this Stug 3 advancing on this top side. Panzergrenz still going to be making a move here. And I'm not really sure what Herr Robert can do anymore. He's got 4 minutes and 15 seconds to win the game. He's got to find himself like pretty much over 500 points if he wants to secure himself a win. And yeah, it's just not looking good. I'm surprised I haven't seen a Churchill 7, honestly. I think a Churchill 7 on this top side would have been really, really useful. Maybe one on the bottom side as well. 15 front armor is just like so good against like most 13 AP value targets, because although you will take morale damage, they won't like ever die, and that's really, really good for like taking on like enemy units, and you can keep them covered with smoke as well. Like you can just use Churchill 7s, cover them with smoke, get them into 1,000 meter range, and then like use them to pick off things like the Marder 3s, especially in like the mid game. Like now there's Tigers on the field, maybe not so much. Like at close range, the Tigers will still defeat a Command Churchill, but in terms of the Stugs and the Marder 3s that we've seen in the mid game, like a Churchill would have definitely been a lot better, like Churchill 7s for advancing with the rifles here, and also just keeping smoke on top of those rifles would have been a really good idea in general, just to allow them to make ground without being fired upon by units from range, which has basically been the game plan from Walther throughout, but since his own infantry availability has been relatively low. Now we've got 3 Spitfires coming in. They're all going to be going for strafing runs onto the Tiger E. Looks like Walther has identified this, so he's going to go for the reverse, but we've got a challenger now basically charging towards it. We're going to be trying to find the kill there. We've got the Dingo also zooming up, and that Dingo is just going to try and get into a position where it can give some command to this challenger that's only 1 star now. So Focke-Wulf 190 has come in. That's going to be defending this Focke-Wulf 190G1 that's going for the bombing strike onto the Wolverine. There is a mobile wagon here. But with evac Winchester turned on, the Focke-Wulf 190 is going to get itself killed. Yeah, that Spitfire Mark 9 does not get shot down quick enough. And that means that the Focke-Wulf 190G1 is destroyed. And this other Spitfire is probably not going to get shot down either, since the Focke-Wulf is well out of range. Tiger E now engaging the Wolverine here. Got to be a little bit careful not to allow himself to be engaged upon by the Challenger at the same time. Otherwise it's going to be in a bit of a sticky spot. But look how much ground these Pioneers and Panzergrenadiers have made. Tiger's in a really nice position on this airfield. As soon as this Wolverine shows itself, it's going to die. We also see down here the Tiger has wounded the driver of the Wolverine after that's been forced to fall back. Manages to find the kill. Now going to be engaging the Challenger. Can the Challenger find the kill? I'm not sure he will be able to. Walther's just got to get out of line of sight and allow his Tiger E to recover, then take that engagement in his own time. Stug 3 going to be engaging the Dingo there, get rid of that veterancy. That would be really nice actually. But with the +1 now continuing for Herr Robert, it's just going to make things pretty difficult. Challenger, it's going to make things very difficult for Herr Robert, but the track will damage. Oh, that's a nice hit there from the Challenger onto the Tiger. Tiger's forced to fall back for sure. Focke-Wulf 190 going to be going for the engagement with the Spitfire Mark 9. I'm assuming that Walther wanted to maybe strafe the Challenger with those Focke-Wulf 190s. That would have been a nice thing to do in order to save the Tiger, but I'm not sure he's going to get a chance to. This Focke-Wulf 190, it looks like it actually ran out of fuel, so couldn't chase down the Spitfire Mark 9 even though it was on its tail. And, well, some of the Panzergrenadiers have made it into the building here, and we do see a Churchill 5 going down. We see the Tiger E here. Going to soon be engaging with the Wolverine by the looks of things, although the Befehl Panzer 4 on the top side going to go down. Rifles on the airfield going to get hit, but that is time. And Walther is victorious after 40 minutes. Well played, Walther. Well played indeed. 9th Panzer defeats the 15th Infantry Scots on Carpiquet Duellists. And since that being game 3 of a best of 3, Walther's going to take the series and move on to round 2 of the losers bracket. Or lower bracket, sorry. So there you have it. An interesting game for sure. I think maybe with a little help from smoke, the 15th Infantry Scots could have done a lot better in that game. Rather than trying to focus on the 1,200 meter range engagements that really sort of favoured the 9th Panzer in the early game. So the Marder 3s really took control of that early game, found themselves kills onto the Churchill 5s, which was really important. And then in Phase B, I think maybe the Wolverines were a good choice, but they needed to be accompanied by Churchill 7s for sure. 15 front armor is really hard for the 9th Panzer to deal with because they don't get higher AP until Phase C. The Tigers are the highest AP value unit that they get in the entire division, and that's 15 AP. So at max range, no units can really kill the Churchill 7s. And if you keep them under smoke, allow them to get into the 1,000 meter range, those Churchills can be pretty effective, for sure. So that's what I would have liked to have seen, especially with the spam tactics across the field with the Bren Group and the rifles. They needed to be covered by smoke because a lot of them just died unnecessarily and just died in vain, really. They made some ground in some cases, especially when they had cover to advance behind, but across the open ground, you could see they just got chewed up slowly but surely. And the infantry availability just didn't matter in the end for the 9th Panzer because it looked like the 15th Infantry wasted a lot of theirs. And that's just how it ended up. So, Walther's going to be moving on in the tournament. Herr Robert, unfortunately, knocked out. In terms of kills, we see the Churchill 5 there picking up a lot of kills. Definitely paid itself off. Just getting a lot of Panzergrenadier kills is very nice for a Churchill 5. It used up a lot of its ammunition. Same with this one. Just constantly firing throughout, chunking infantry squads. Wolverine, again, very effective. But after that, moving into the later phases, he couldn't control the air. That was another big problem as well. If we go to like the losses, for example, like these Marder 3s, find the kill onto the Churchill 5, that was important. This mortar actually took out 17 pounder, that's good. But these kills, look, Focke-Wulf 190 took out 3 Spitfire Mark 9s. And then we see the kills from like the ME 109 G2 BR21, which is like the 6 pounder, 17 pounder, 4.2 inch mortar, and a Spitfire itself. And then we also see the Focke-Wulf 190 G1s coming in and bombing both the 17 pounder and 6 pounder on the bottom side, not controlling the air as the 15th Infantry really kind of stung him quite hard, especially with the use of those Focke-Wulf 190 G1s being so effective. And then as soon as the Tiger came in, a lot of the units that were being used just didn't match up very well. And even though it looked like Herr Robert was trying to sort of pin the Tiger so he could advance and attack them well with his challenges, Walther just did the same back. He pinned the challengers. He managed to get them killed because of that. And just, yeah, really, really well played by Walther to sort of play around the 15th Infantry's infantry themselves, but mistakes on the side of the 15th Infantry Scots and Herr Robert himself. That's where I'm going to leave it, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this series. It's been a really, really awesome series, actually. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.